Good day. My name is Dale. I've noticed on YouTube we have a lot of spiritual deconstruction testimonies. People get themselves into places of popularity and then to become more popular in a post-Christian, post-truth culture. They come out of the closet in the sense where, hey, I used to follow Jesus my whole life and it was real. I really did follow Jesus. But now I've seen the error of my way and now I've turned away from the truth. Well, I just want you to understand for the testimonies you see like that, there are countless thousands of people who were not raised in Christian homes, who have been raised in whether it's atheistic homes or they've been raised in other religions or they've been raised in nominal Christian homes. And these people have come to a place where they've seen the error of their ways, that they've seen that life, according to a secular mindset and mentality, is empty and it's void. There is no purpose. And if you try to make up a purpose, that purpose is simply arbitrary. It means nothing outside of yourself. And so we try to hang on to these morality codes and we will judge the church for its evils. But according to what standard are we judging it? In the end, if we don't have the Almighty above us, it just becomes, I have my own opinions and my own feelings on things. And why am I holding the rest of humanity? Why am I holding the church accountable for this? So we are coming up on what has been known as Easter or Resurrection Sunday for the last 2,000 years. And if you are not a follower of Jesus, for the first 24 years of my life, I didn't follow Jesus. I just had no use for it. I'm not going to say I fought against the church, but my life, I was a loose cannon. I lived my life for me. I lived my life for sin. I fell into criminal activity. But the Lord had mercy on my soul, and the Lord delivered me from my sin and from my hopelessness and my lack of purpose in life. And so for years, I still have a day job, but for years I've also been a preacher. And so I get to tell people what real good news is. And so we come up to Easter and we have before Easter, it's called Good Friday. So why would we call the execution of a human being, a person who is whipped until their back very likely look like Hamburger Helper, and they are pummeled and beaten, and his beard is ripped out of his face, and we hang him on a tree of execution where he slowly asphyxiates and can't breathe, nails through your wrists, through your feet, and eventually you breathe your last breath and you die. Well, you know, I don't know about you, but the first thing that comes into my mind isn't, hey, that sounds really good, right? That's horrible. It's torture. Well, why in the world? Why in the world would we call that good? It's because of what happened after Good Friday. Jesus, when he walked on this earth, Jesus said, I am God in the flesh. I have left heaven. I have come to earth in order to suffer and to die for you, to take your place. Jesus said, I give my life. No one takes my life from me. He says, I voluntarily give it up. I have the authority to give my life up, and I have the authority, or I have the authority to give my life, and I have the authority to take my life back again. Now, a skeptic might say, well, sure, that's easy for him to say. When we read through the Gospels, it really looks like the Jewish leaders and the Romans, they took Jesus by force, and they forced him and nailed him to the cross. And I can remember hearing years ago someone had said, it wasn't the nails that held Jesus to that cross. It was his love for you and me. And you know what? That's beautiful and it's sentimental, but again, someone can say, whatever. It looked like the nails were holding him to the cross. So how do we know that Jesus voluntarily went to the cross? How do we know that he wasn't forced by human hands to go to the cross? Well, in the Gospel of John, chapter 18, we have Jesus, and he's in the Garden of Gethsemane with his disciples, most of his disciples, because one of them, Judas, had already said in his heart that he was going to betray Jesus. He thought that the Messiah was going to be someone who was going to come and he was going to deliver, he was going to rescue God's people from their physical, earthly oppressors. So Rome had Israel under its thumb and it was pushing them down, enslaving them. The Messiah was going to come and deliver now. Judas didn't realize, along with many people today, that God has come to deliver. Jesus did come to deliver, but our greatest enemies is our own fallen, sinful heart, and we are under a spiritual bondage that blinds our eyes, and we are dead in our sins, and we needed someone to come to deliver us from our state of hatred. We hate God in our hearts, the Bible tells us. So Jesus came to deliver, but Judas didn't recognize this. So he went off and betrayed Jesus to the Jewish leaders and to the Romans. And in John 18, Jesus is it's at evening time. He's in the Garden of Gethsemane with his disciples. And we are told that Judas came with a large mob of soldiers and people who were armed. And Jesus, as the good shepherd, he walks, because Jesus said, I am the good shepherd. I lay down my life for my sheep. So Jesus, he walks in front of his disciples. So now he's standing between his disciples and the mob before him. And Jesus asks them, he says, whom do you seek? And they said, well, we seek Jesus of Nazareth. And now in our English translations, we are told that Jesus said, I am he. But in the Greek, the word he is not there. So when they asked Jesus asked, whom are you seeking? They said, we're seeking Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus said, I am. Now, if you know your Old Testament at all, now you might not, but in the Old Testament, God's people were in slavery. They'd been in slavery under a superpower nation called Egypt for 400 years. And God was raising up a man to deliver them. His name was Moses. And Moses had been in a wilderness for 40 years. And Moses, we are told, he sees a bush that's burning. And Moses goes to the bush. And then God calls to Moses out of the bush. And God calls Moses to go into Egypt and to tell the king of Egypt, let my people go. And Moses asks God, what's your name? What should I tell them? Your name is, who sent me? And God said, tell them that I am that I am sent you. What this means is God is saying, I am the source of life. I am the creator. I am the source of blessing and truth. I am the self-sustaining one. I am the self-existing one. I am the Almighty. Tell them that I am sent you. And now here Jesus, who has told people that he is the God-man, that he is the Messiah. But Jesus has the audacity to say to this group of people, I am. Now, I don't know if he sort of said it like, Shazam! I don't know if he said it like that, or if he said it in a very soft tone. I think it was probably a soft tone. But when they asked him about Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus said, I am. And John tells us that this mob of very likely 100, 200 people were laid out on the ground. God is showing them, Jesus was showing them, I could crush you like a bug. You are not taking my life. You are not going to drag me to that cross. I am going willingly. I am going to give my life for my enemies. I am going to give my life. I am going to suffer on Calvary's cross and take the wrath of my Father upon myself, so that everyone who will come to me and trust in me and surrender their life to me can have eternal life. God demonstrates his love toward us in that while we are yet sinners, Jesus died for us. And it was a voluntary death. It was a death that he gave up his life so that you and I, as rebels, you and I, who have given God the one finger wave up to heaven and have lived our lives rebelling and fighting against him, God is saying, come to me and I will show you mercy. And we know that Jesus rose from the grave because on the third day he rose, and we are told that there were eyewitnesses to see this, hundreds of eyewitnesses. The man who wrote half of the New Testament is the Apostle Paul. He was a man who was on a mission to destroy the church. He was a devout Jew. He thought Jesus was the false Messiah, and Jesus appeared to Paul, and Paul's life was changed forever, and he became the greatest missionary. He was willing to suffer and die as he proclaimed not what he said he believed, but he proclaimed what he saw. I saw the risen Messiah. I saw that Jesus Christ raised from the grave. I'm willing to give up my fame, my fortune, my money, which he had all of these as a religious leader in that day. I'm willing to give it all up so that I can follow the Messiah, and I can suffer for him, and I can be punished and go to jail for him in this life, because I know that this life is not the end. I know that one day I am going to stand before Jesus as my judge. And if I trust in him, my sins have been paid for from him on the cross, and his righteousness is given to me, that I stand before God blameless. When I first became a follower of Jesus years ago, my friends told me, you'll be back, Dale. You'll be a month, 2 months, and then all of a sudden it was years. And now it's been 29 years that I've followed Jesus. I'm not going back. God has changed my heart. If some people have followed Jesus and then all of a sudden they turn away, God says in his word, the reason why they went out from my people is they showed that they never really were of them. When God does a work in your heart, it's an eternal work. It will never fail. It will never cease. God will start a work in you and he will finish it in you. And he is worthy of whatever struggles we have to go through in this life. So trust in Jesus. God bless you all.